Good morning, everyone. And by that, I mean a very early good morning to you. It's quite early where I am right now. I won't even tell you how early. But anyway, welcome again to the Power of God Ministries weekly devotional series, Walking the Word. My name is Kevin Stewart, and I'm one of the leaders here with this ministry. And this morning, we're going to pick up where we left off in our topic of knowing God's will, looking again at Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Last time we said that knowing God's will required offering your body, which God says bring your body as a sacrifice, a living sacrifice. And we said the reason God asked for the body was that the actions done, deeds done in the body externally reveal whether the person who received God's will was walking in obedience to that will internally. That is, inside their minds, inside their will, and inside their emotions. If those aspects of their soul was responding to the will of God in obedience. And that is revealed through the body. So God says, offer your body as a living sacrifice. We said in Galatians 2:20, Paul says, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And we went on to say and ask the question, can you say the same thing? And if you did, is there evidence to support it? And if not, there are some steps we can take to begin the process of saying we too could say the same thing, and that we'd share that this week. Well, here we are in this week. And the first step would be the second part of what Paul asks in Romans 12, 1 and 2, which is offer your body as a living sacrifice, right? This is significant because the sacrifice establishes two things. The first one is who's the superior being and who's the subordinate being. You see, it's the superior being who receives the sacrifice from the subordinate being. And it's the superior being that determines whether the sacrifice is holy and acceptable, not the subordinate being. So in other words, for us to present a sacrifice to God, the superior being, we have to submit to his terms and his conditions. And that is a necessary step in offering a sacrifice and in knowing God's will. He decides if it's acceptable and pleasing. He calls the shots. The second thing is that it reprioritizes what we value. You see, Israel was an agrarian society. Basically, they were farmers. So that meant when they offered a sacrifice, God often required either the first fruits of their crops or the firstborn of their livestock. So when they gave a sacrifice, it cost them tangibly something because that thing was set apart. It could not be traded, sold, or used. It now was consecrated for God and God only. And it was something they would feel tangibly, the price of offering that sacrifice. And so that brings us to the question on the table. Are you, as you seek God's will, willing to bring a sacrifice which will die? Specifically, are you willing to be that sacrifice and die? Die to your way of doing things, die to your way of thinking about things, your way of accomplishing things. Are you willing to pay the price God seeks for you to know his will? You see, sometimes it's easier to offer of our possessions than of our person, which is our body. But that is exactly what God is asking of us, to offer our bodies as a sacrifice in order for us to know his will. So today, I invite you, if you are serious about knowing God's will, to take this opportunity to begin a daily commitment to offer your body as a living sacrifice, surrendering your will, your emotions, and your mind to have God rule in these areas of your life. Next week, we'll talk more about how you present a living sacrifice. Until then, please think deeply through what you're asking yourselves about knowing God's will, and then deeply through what God says it requires to know that will. We'll be off next week, but in the following week, like I said, we will discuss how do you present a living sacrifice. Until then, have a great week. Goodbye.